So we have just had a patient who registered him or her at the front desk, and now in the office the chiropractor can look at the patient file and look this up via two ways. We can either go to the creation date, today the 28th, or we can go and look it up from the patient's name. So let's do creation date, and I will press enter. I will get several files. I will go to the last file here, and it was Mickey Mouse. And you can see we have entered the patient's name, phone number, which is corrected to standardize this, the date of birth, and automatically you will see a calculation on the amount of years that the baby is or the person is. So in this case it's still 0. And then here is the other contact information of the patient, and you can also see if there is a picture, for example, an EID, it will appear there. So the GP, the mutuality, and then we have listed, or the patient has selected several red flags, and as you can see, this has already been transformed into from lay language into scientific language. For example, baby is slop is transformed into hypotonie, and you can evaluate the cluster of the red flags with a blink of the eye. So let's say we have mutuality Z. There are 5 reimbursement forms for the patient per year, so the year 2020, and it will appear here 1 on 5, 2 on 5. So let's make an appointment, and so I will see this patient now. I select chiropractor bird, and we have a pediatric history, and now because I clicked on that information, I will go back. Because I selected chiropractor, the mutuality reimbursement form has been sent to this email address, and it is the address of the patient. I will now go to the information that the patient has typed in, so the reason for the visit, and they have selected these 3 things. So posture, then asymmetrical skull, motor problems. During zwangerschap, so during pregnancy there was pain in the pelvis, back or neck, and so this is your opportunity to talk about this and add some extra information. For example, it was banden pain, for example, radiating to the right buttock. And then the vomiting was only in the first 6 weeks. Fetal positioning. So the information of the 25 questions are filled out in the right positions with the right text. Fetal positioning for the birth, and you can add some other information, for example, first at home and when then to the hospital. The interventions, it's not possible of course at home, but it's an example. You can add extra info here about labor, and if the patient doesn't click more than 4 wet nappies, then it doesn't appear. Yeah? So here we have vroedvrouw, so the midwife and the pediatrician can receive a report. So we can here select to send this to this midwife, and for example we can select the pediatrician. All this information can be individualized in the setup of your practice. You can, in the preferences, which is I will show you now. In the preferences you can set up your practice. For example, here you can add the different specialists or doctors that you work together with, and midwives, and their contact, and then this will appear in the patient's file, and it will be automatically select the right contact. When I will now go back to the patient so we don't lose track. So we were in the history of the patient, and I will scroll down. Now we select that it is okay to send a report to the midwife. And then we start the physical exam. Observation, you can add things here, you can add comments on the skull, symmetry, you can do range of motion, cranial testing, soft tissues, any dysfunctions in the articulations, any advice or exercises to give, if there's a tongue tie, what the tongue function is, and so on. And you can add a working diagnosis. So that's why it was not filled in here yet, because you had to listen to the patient first and add a physical exam. And let's say the working diagnosis after all that is, I'm just gonna make something up, Josephali, C2 on the right, sacrum left, okay. So then we will go to the treatment. So as you can see, we now have a working diagnosis filled out. We have the most important facts from our first physical exam, and we have a treatment here, okay? And this treatment is a copy from the soft tissue abnormalities and the articular dysfunctions. And as you can see, we have also a spine here where we can select any dysfunctions, and this will look like this, where we can select, for example, we'll unselect these, C2 on the right, 2, 3, and that sacrum. Go back to the patient. It will appear here, and then we can add something. Divorce of performance after birth, for example. This might be a flag, so I will put this as a yellow flag, and this will appear here. Then these are the previous appointments, and you can see that we have a history, a chiropractor, a date, physical exam, treatment. We have your honorarium, and here you can select the payment. It's standard in red because then we know it's not filled out. So let's say they pay by bank contact, which is a B. It will appear here as a B, and this will be automatically saved in your totals of the day, which is your billing. Okay, so let's see how this appears as a letter for the midwife, for example.